And then
Yeah.
talking to lenders, sometimes they drop their conventional loans to 5%. Definitely shop around. There's always great deals around. You just got to go talk to some people. It'll take you a couple of drives, a little bit of time, but save you thousands of dollars down the road.
My name is Kevin McIntosh, and this is the Closing Table, where we talk to experts about their experience in real estate all across the country. Let's go. Welcome to the Closing Table Podcast. I am your host, Kevin C. McIntosh, and joining us on this episode, ready to give us some more knowledge that we all need. We want to welcome real estate professional Manny Alfaro to the Closing Table. What's going on, Manny?
Hi, how's it going?
Good, man. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and being here, sharing your knowledge on the Closing Table. We appreciate it, man. So, but first and foremost, we like to slide into talking about who you are as an individual. So, in 60 seconds or less, Manny, tell us who you are outside of real estate, please.
I'm definitely a super hard worker. I like definitely things my way. Like very picky with all my stuff, but that's very good. Like that means I'm really good at helping other people be picky with their own situations. Besides that, I'm kind of boring to just sit at home, watch movies, hang out with my dogs. Go eat out with my girlfriend, and that's it.
There it is, man. Don't need too much, man. Nowadays, keep it simple. I like staying inside the house, talking, being with my girlfriend, watching movies too, man. So I completely understand.
Oh yeah.
So keeping it safe. Good to hear. So let's slide into who you are as a real estate professional now. I had you basically describe yourself outside of real estate. Now describe yourself as a real estate professional.
So for that, I try to do my best, like to meet all my clients' needs. Make sure that they're also a little bit realistic. You got to bring them down to earth once in a while because everybody wants that
Mm-hmm.
perfect dream home, but they also want it for the cheapest houses possible. You gotta kind
Yes.
of pick your pros and cons. So like, you gotta sacrifice a couple of things. Like interior or exterior, square footage, or maybe two-story, single story, or basement, no basement.
Mm-hmm.
Location is definitely always a big one. So besides that, I try to keep them, and I say more educated. I try to learn as much as I can so I can show them as much as I could show anybody else. Like it's very difficult. There's a lot of moving parts. Try to keep them informed
Yeah.
as best to my knowledge.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, people seem to take whatever they hear on the outside noise, mass media that talks about the general blanket of real estate across the country. They'll just take that and think that applies specifically to where they are, and that's not necessarily the case at all. So yeah, it takes somebody like you said, somebody that kind of deflate their head and bring them down, to earth and say this is what you can really, what you're really dealing with. Now, before we even get too far into the other questions, we got to talk about where you're doing your business. So, first and foremost, describe your current market geographically. I'm going to have you talk about it two different parts, but first, talk about it geographically, as in where you are, and talk about how you would describe where you are.
So for me, it's a little cold. I'm in Michigan. It's actually very cold right now. So most people are worried about either how much snow they got to shovel from their driveway or how many leaves they're gonna pick up during the summer or fall and all that good stuff. So trees is a big one because you want to know how many trees are on your property. Just how much square footage you got out there and if it's gated or not. So if it's not gated, the leaves blow away. If they got a big old long driveway, they gotta maybe get a guy to come plow it versus shoveling the whole thing. But besides
Mm-hmm.
that, everyone just wants a nice, big, pretty house.
Yeah. Yeah. So you say you are in Michigan. We are all experiencing. We are in Michigan too. We all are experiencing a very harsh moment within the winter 2024 season as of right now. So let's get into exactly some data, some statistics. First and foremost, do you serve the entire state of Michigan? If not, tell us the exact city or area within Michigan that you serve, and then get into some economics, some data in regards to prices, days on the market, any information that you have in regards to where you are serving.
Okay, so right now, I trying to mostly focus on Muskegon. That's where my brokerage is right now. And I live
Okay.
in Spring Lake, so I'm trying to branch out more into the Spring Lake Grand Haven area. And
Mhm.
right now, just because everything's so expensive, the houses that do sell quickly are very desirable houses. So there's houses that the ones that are at a perfect price range or a little bit below market value, great condition. Those are on the market for maybe less than a week. Those are like as soon as they're posted, they're like gone. And then the ones that don't
Really?
sell or the ones that are like, they
Mm.
have like it's either too big or the location's just like too far away from everything or like, there's just something off about it. It's a good house, just it's not for everybody, or it's mostly with like the multifamily houses right now. Those ones kind of sit on there, could go anywhere from like a month, maybe a month and a half, two, and then depending, yeah, if it's
Really?
a really bad conditioned house, then only time could tell for those. Those that we have some that are still right now sitting on the market. Commercial too right now. Commercial sitting quite some time.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I've heard about commercial real estate and how its vacancy rate has been increasing for a while. But yeah, to hear about the multi families, the multi dwellings, kind of taking longer is a little interesting to me because as someone who's an advocate for real estate investing, I always preach about house hacking, which is essentially being an owner occupied in an owner occupied dwelling, which is maybe a duplex. You live in one end, you rent out the other, you use the rent that you get from the other occupant to pay for your mortgage. So I would think more people would be privy to that and try to take advantage of it as income driven properties. Considering the fact that you're saying that's not the case in your market specifically, it's just telling me people are maybe just thinking more of the family, get my family in the house,
Mhm.
just think of not too much investments. It's just really just find a place where we can call home. And then even with the other places that you mentioned, I think that you said that aren't selling, like maybe the because of the condition or the location. I just love the fact that a lot of people say it could be that maybe it's the aspect or the perspective of the buyer, but it could be the fact that it's just not priced right. Anything can sell if it's priced right. Obviously, you'll find some type of investor or buyer that'll say, "Hey, it's the right price for me. I'll take it. I'll do something with it." So that's just my philosophy on what I've heard and
Mhm.
experience also. But I agree with it. Sometimes just the right buyer is just saying it's just in the right location for me. Maybe it is the right price, but it's just not the right location either. So I love that perspective, and that's interesting to know about how things are moving in your market. In your experience though, where you are, I'm not too familiar with the Muskegon area of Michigan too much. But from all the homes that you've seen and your experience, let's just talk about the uniqueness of some of the homes. Have you been in a home that has something super weird, unconventional feature, or just a weird property altogether? You got any experience like that you can share?
So the weirdest one that I seen was in Muskegon, the Muskegon Heights. Is a
Hmm.
very, very beat down property, and it was still selling for like I want to say 50 to 60,000. And it was the entire house was just it needed to be torn down. It was literally shifted. It was leaning to the side, the entire house. But
Wow.
people were still walking around in there, even though it's very dangerous. Really not recommended at all. But super scary, super like, like you would look at it and be like, what is going on? Like the whole house is just tilted that way. Like it looks like a perfectly normal house, but besides the little tilt, it's just like completely just doing like a little Michael Jackson, the little lean forward kind of thing, except it's the
Right.
whole house.
That's so is it fully structured already? You said is it run down? Does it look abandoned, or is it like kind of just put together with a few little damages, but it's kind of leaned over? Like how is it? Because I'm thinking of a completely abandoned home that you can almost look directly through. But is it like put together, door and everything, windows, but it's just leaning?
So it still had the doors, it still had the windows. Like it wasn't like completely abandoned or nothing like that. Like it was gated. The garden wasn't even all like overgrown and everything yet. It was just it looks like it's just been sitting there. Nobody really messed with it. They just maintained the outside, and it literally just sat there until it leaned. Just maybe turbine damage. I don't know. I didn't really look into specifically what was damaging it,
Right.
but for
Yeah.
sure structural.
I was just gonna say it's still foundational or structural damage, which is like one of the most expensive one. Why do you think people were so interested in that property despite that?
It had
Was it the
a
location?
good chunk of land, and it was like It was around all the food.
Ah,
All the good restaurants are nearby. It's in a good neighborhood.
there you go. Wow. Wow. That's funny to think about. People will buy a home even though it's leaning just because it's next to some good restaurants and shopping and
Oh yeah, it's
stuff like
mostly the tacos. Yeah,
that. That's
they got really good
right,
tacos.
right,
Yeah.
right. That's perfect. That's crazy. Okay, good, good. Well, that's interesting to know how things are moving there. But from your personal experience, from what you've done so far, what would you say is one of the most challenging aspects of the real estate industry as a whole? From your personal experience, what do you feel like needs to change or whatever? Or do you have any examples of something you've been through that is a perfect example or exemplifies that exact challenge that you're talking about?
I would say maybe like educating more people. Like I feel like the education about home buying and the home buying experience and what to expect
Right.
needs to be like more publicized. Like the average person needs to be like a little bit more informed. Like because like I've dealt with people who like they've rented their whole life, and then this is their first time buying a home, but they're in their 50s, so like their perspective, like they sometimes like they kind of think you're taking advantage of them because there's just so many moving parts, and you have to sign so many different things, and there's realtor
Mm-hmm.
fees, there's the application fees, there's all kinds of fees, title fees. And then they're like, oh,
Yeah.
like, you guys just want money, but it's not that, like we're doing a lot of the work, the paperwork, and the title company runs over their checks, and it's also insured. Like, they're not just taking it for no reason. And, that kind of freaks out a lot of people. So I feel like if we could, like, a lot more people just need to educate, like, the public, more Facebook reels, but not just like, the quick get rich kind of memes, like actually like explain, the
Mm-hmm.
contracts and the home buying experience. Like people, like if you look into the for sale by homeowners kind of things, they have like little booklets and applications where you could sell a home by yourself. Just checking that out just to learn like the whole process. That's perfect for like negotiating with your realtor and stuff like that. And now you know
Mm.
how to like what they're going to be doing. So like, okay, what am I waiting on this paperwork? Or like well and septic, that's going to take 3 weeks. Or like VA pest inspection, that's only, find someone to do it and pay at closing or up front, who's going to pay it, buyer
Yeah.
or seller, and then you got to do the taxes, there's so many moving parts, just letting them be a little bit more informed and, just trained, I guess you want to say. A lot of the information's out there, but no one's really like explaining it very well.
Okay. See, and that's what I was gonna say. You said a lot of great things. That's what I was gonna touch on too. And I mentioned this to another guest before. There's plenty of education out there. We're in the age of information, the internet. So you can access almost any type of information you want just through a handheld device. But the point is, are people in a position to consume it? Are people willing to consume it? Are people going to places? And are people consuming the information in a way that they can actually comprehend it? There's so many different ways. TikTok, Google, the library, seminars, or podcasts. There's so many different ways that you can learn about it now. But it's like, how like there's no one way fits all either. So there's so many different ways that people can learn. I feel like it's almost oversaturated in a way, and it kind of numbs some people too. And they hear so many different things from so many different people that they almost don't know what to believe. So they run around with a lot of rumors. So I love the way you broke that down. And one thing that you said that I never knew about was the fact you said something about a first time home buyer's manual or something like that they can pick up and kind of learn
Oh,
how you would sell a home if you would do it by yourself, but you kind of learn the responsibilities of an
yeah,
agent.
it's
What were you
a it's
saying?
a for sale by homeowner. It's a booklet or a little like folder that has like pretty much like all the paperwork you would need to get started on selling your home. And you can pick those up at a title agencies, like any title agency will help you out with that
Mm,
because they'll run the title work for you. So they're more than happy to help. Like if you go in and stop by, like, hey, I'm interested in selling my own home by myself, or like you
right.
just could pick up the pamphlet and you can look over all the paperwork. You can read all like what you're gonna need, what inspections. You can talk to your city hall and get all your maps, so if you have like a well there or you got your pumps or maybe need a survey, or maybe you got the big septic tanks in the back. You want to know where those are at so they can get them inspected. And then all that stuff has to be
Mm-hmm.
done by licensed people. They can put you in contact with all those people too. They're super useful. The title agency alone they're a big help.
Nice, nice, great information right there. Great information, man. And that's the like we said before, the process is a complicated. It's not impossible, but it is complex. So I suggest everyone learn how to sell a home, the process that it takes or what it takes to go to sell a home.
Oh yeah,
But still, get with a professional. Get with a professional. It's good to know the information, but if you got a professional, they can walk you through it. You can make sure that they are checking all those boxes that are required too. So that was a great perspective right there too, man. Appreciate that, man. Giving that information. And speaking of giving information, you had to educate your family recently on the whole buying and selling process because you recently, one of your recent transactions, you said you helped your uncle purchase your grandfather's home.
hmm
I love to hear about that first and foremost because that's keeping the family, the property within the family. So, can you talk about that whole situation? Any hurdles or challenges you had to overcome, and just overall what you learned from that situation?
that one was sweet. So they're both veterans. So my uncle was buying it with the VA loan, and my grandpa,
Nice.
he was also a veteran, so he had a VA loan taken out on it recently, or not recently, but that was the current
Mm,
loan on there. But
hmm.
since they were son and father, whenever he buys the house, the taxes they don't become uncapped because it's passing it through the family members. So he gets to keep
Nice.
2016
Nice.
taxes, but we had to make sure we filed the proper paperwork saying that he really is his son, even though they had the same name and everything. He was a junior, but you still have to prove it, make sure it's all
Mm,
good, get the city hall approval, all that good stuff. And then I would say making sure that my uncle knew he had all the right paperwork because they want a lot of paperwork. They want W-2s, like 2 years back. They want paycheck stubs. They want, if
yes.
you have your co-signer, which is usually the wife, if she wants to be on there, they want her paycheck stubs. They want her W-2s. They want her, like employment history, and they want a couple more things. For him personally, he wanted his VA or his military paperwork proving that he was actually in the service, and that's just so he
Right.
qualified for the VNE loan. Making sure you have that
Hmm.
paperwork handy is super important. He actually was missing his, so we had to wait. I think I want to say like a week or two just to get a hold of that. It's a little timely
That's not too
process.
bad.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the only thing with that too is there's a lot of like you got to be very careful. There, like with all this paperwork stuff, there's a lot of scheming going around nowadays. So you got to make sure you're talking to the right
Mm,
person. If they're asking for a little too much information, and if you're working with the realtor, check with your realtor. We can confirm whether or not that's a real person. Well, like if they're legitimate. A quick little Google search of the company or the name and the number that doesn't hurt. That's definitely useful. And then I would say setting a realistic time goal also is always very important because my grandpa was in a hurry. He wanted to sell, and he was very excited to buy a new. He wants a trailer on the one floor, so he wanted
okay.
he wanted things moved along forward. But you gotta let him know like, hey, we still got to file all this paperwork. We got to get all these inspections. Make sure the house is good.
Right.
Everyone got to get
Right.
their payments done, and then file all the paperwork. And then after everything's said and done, it's all good. But besides that, it went pretty smooth. I think the whole process took us a little longer than 45 days for a VA loan. It's we want to close at 45 days for VA, so I know we took a little longer, but that's just because it was different. It wasn't a dual agency because I was representing my grandpa, the seller, but I was like a transaction coordinator for my uncle. Just to keep it,
Hmm.
I have to make sure, it's when you do a dual agency, it gets a little sticky, so you don't want to mess up with that. You have to make sure the fiduciary
Right.
duties, and you want to give them both equal treatment. But if you're representing both sides, and you're trying to get a lower due here, this guy wants more money. It's hard to keep a level playing field there. So that's why it's better to represent just one on that side.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Great knowledge that you just gave, by the way, with that. But overall, I know that just had to be such a satisfying feeling,
Oh yeah, it
man.
was great. Yeah.
Helping your family, educating them, and knowing that they can trust you, that you're not trying to get over on them because your family, obviously. So you want their best interest at you have their best interest at heart, man. When I saw that, I saw the pictures and everything. I was like, oh man, it made me smile too. You was hugs and
Oh yeah.
everything. I was like, man, look at Manny. That's cool, man. That's cool. We gotta keep some information out there in regards to first time home buyers too. I think that's very, very important. As we are in the winter season in the top of 2024, the first quarter. As we start to slide into the second quarter, third quarter, that's when things will start to heat up a little bit. So let's just talk about, if you can, just give us some essential knowledge first time home buyers should know about any home loan options, maybe anything they should know about brokerages, any great information or any information specific to your market. Can you just share that with us now?
So there's a grant. It's called the Rural Development Grant. If you, me personally, I come from Texas, so I like to live in the middle of nowhere. But if you like to live a little bit more outside the city, and you get more land, it's a little cheaper. You get a nicer house, a little bit bigger, more square footage, just because it's so far away from everything. You get a rural
Hmm.
development grant. I want to say not for sure, but it's around like maybe they'll help you out with like 10 grand, and though that's for your home, and anybody can get that. You just there's a rural development website that you can just plug in the address, whatever home you're looking at, and if it's far enough and it qualifies, you can apply and you can get that grant for your home, and that'll save you $10,000. Put that towards closing costs or something. Definitely helps.
Man,
And then
yeah,
if for first time home buyers, the FHA loan is that's what that one is. You could do that for your second home, third home, fourth home. There's no limit on the first time home buyers. Like you can do that. That's great. That's only three to 5% down, which is way better than conventional. That's 20% down, and you still get all the benefits. And for here and Michigan, I think we can go up to I think it's almost 400,000 for FHA loan. So you can buy a house up to 400,000. That's great. You can find a pretty
nice.
nice house for that. And then
Yeah,
talking to lenders, sometimes they drop their conventional loans to 5%. Definitely shop around. There's always great deals around. You just got to go talk to some people. It'll take you a couple of drives, a little bit of time, but it'll save you thousands of dollars down the line.
yeah, no, well said, well said. Great resources that need to be available. I think some people might when you're already in the process of tunnel vision to look to buy or sell a home. Sometimes you're just thinking about, all right, I know I need to get to a real estate agent. I know I need to, and they'll tell me to get with a loan, a loan, a mortgage company or something like that, or a bank, and then we go from there. You don't even think about the fact sometimes they're not going to tell you that you could probably go out there and qualify for a down payment assistance or closing cost
And
assistance. So it's good to know that information, because not everyone's just going to tell you that offhand. It's not even their job technically to tell you that. So to know that is very, very pivotal, especially for first time home buyers who may not have the funds as needed. Well said, man. Well said. Before we get out of here, if you don't mind, Manny, I want to ask you random question, if you will, but a random book, movie, quote, or philosophy that you might live by, that you feel helped change you or shape you personally or professionally, you could share with us.
there's a lot of good movies explaining how like pretty much money works. But for the housing market specifically, there's a movie called The Big Short. It's a great movie. It's a lot
Mm,
of good information. It talks about the housing market, the last crash, and how the rates and everything were going up and down, and how they would bungle up the homes and sell it to Fannie Mae and everything. It's very beneficial. A lot of good information, and I think if you're trying to get into like maybe being a real estate agent or even buying a home or just understanding more about how that works, it's a great movie to check out.
The Big Short.
Mhm.
The Big Short, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, gonna have to check that out right there. Gonna have to check that. Well, thank you for providing that information, that insight, and we appreciate that, man. It's a perfect place to land the plane at this point. If you have any last words and or want to tell people how to reach out to you, the floor is yours, sir.
Um, so I have a Facebook page. It's just Manuel Alfaro Jr. and then Manny the Realtor. That's another good way to look it up. And I'm more than help out anybody in the Michigan area. Just let me know. And I'm free to talk to. So if you have any information, especially veterans, I can always help out with that too. And besides that, I hope everyone finds their dream home and has a great 2024. We'll see what comes. Hopefully, no more COVID or nothing like that. Hopefully, it's a nice, smooth year. And besides that, I wish nothing but the best for everybody.
There it is. Well said, man. Thank you again, Manny. We appreciate it. For our YouTube audience watching right now, if you got to this point in the video, do us both a favor. Hit the like button, please, and thank you. Make sure you subscribe and share the content. If you are listening on Apple, Spotify, or any other podcast platforms, please do the same. Give us a like, 5-star rating, and subscribe to our channel. And I got to leave a question also for our YouTube videos, video audience, or listeners right now. So this is for you. Have you ever bought or sold a home to or from a family member, and what was your experience? Don't tell us now. Leave it in the comments, please. Besides that, we'll talk to you next time.